We are gathered here today with great blessings from Tan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and we are able to get wisdom and get guidance from Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Gurmukh Pyareo, let's do a little bit Simran and get our mind into Sahaj, and then we'll have some vichars in English. Va Guru, 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 Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Gurmukh Pyareo, we're so lucky to be in Sat Sangat, where we are able to be given information that uncovers the secret of life. For now, up until now, this is the Kaljug, we've been not understanding those secrets. The true Guru, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, gives us Margdarshan and allows us to understand and know what is real and what is not real. Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji allows us to do puja, asal puja. And puja means worship. When we are able to do this asal puja, we are given great guidance, great longing and love for Akal Purkh Waheguru Ji. Last session we were talking about Path Prayo, the Shabad by Panchme Patsha, Path Prayo or Bed Bicharyo Nival Payangam Sadhe, Panch Jana Se Sangan Chutke Adak Ahang Bud Bade Pyare Enabid Milan Najai Makiye Karm Aneka. So Guru Sahib is saying, what karam should I do to make myself? What is the aneka? What is the greatest karam? What is the greatest action I can do? And then we said, Sarab taram shresht taram har ko naam jap nirmal karam. So that of all the taram, of all the duty, the best taram is har ko naam jap nirmal karam. You can see in the world is burning in desires and anxieties. But when you do nirmal karam, when you do naam japana, sift salah of Akal Purkh Waheguru Ji, what happens is all that goes away. And it's a simple process. When we connect with the sound of our own voice and then connect with Akal Purkh's Guru Mantra that is given to us, we are given a great blessing because we disconnect from all this temporary thing, all this anxiety. The Guru Mantra is something that everyone is able to use, regardless of your caste or creed. In Gurbani there it talks about Jat ka garab na kareo koi, where any, Khatri Brahman Soot Bas ko mantar ko jape har mantar japani. There's a line there where it says, any of the 4 castes of traditional India, any one of them can do jap of Ek Akal Purkh Waheguru Ji. That gyan was revolutionary. That gyan was revolutionary in the sense that no one had allowed that before. The gurus, they were beings that came to this earth with a purpose to break us from these bondages, break us from these kind of rules that humans had created to create anxiety and fear and inequality and duality. And, in the Shabad, the Path Prayo or Bed Bicharyo, Guru Sahib touches on all these points that have been created by society, right? But Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, there's a line there, Pothi Parmeshwar ka than, Sad Sange Gave Gun Gobind Purna Brahm Gyan. This Pothi, this Purna Brahm Gyan, this full knowledge of Brahm Gyan. Brahm means Rab or Ek Akal Purkh. Gyan means knowledge. Puran Brahm Gyan means total knowledge of that one. Poti Parmeshwar Ka Than. Than means standard. So whatever people have said and whatever people have said that this is what you need to do or this is your karam, if you compare to Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, it doesn't, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji gives you the standard. So you can always kind of compare what people are telling you to what Guru Granth Sahib Ji is telling you. And in that Shabad, you know, Guru Sahib talks on a lot of things. They talk about Panjada Sang. They talk about Dubda, right? They talk about Man Ki Mal, right? And they give you basically a revolutionary knowledge, right? Like, for example, if you look at a contemporary example, the COVID virus was, you know, there was a super spreader event in the Kumbh Mela. So millions of people were told that they are going to be purified by going to one place and they shouldn't worry about the science. And then what happened was then they all got COVID. And so Guru Sahib had a revolutionary gyan, you know. He said, you can, these things are not going to get you Akal Purkh Vaheguruji. So, you know, even then and even now, these things are going on. But as a Sikh of a Guru, we can use Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji to kind of get us away from these rituals and give people peace in this world. Because, you know, like we were saying in the last session, it's a racket. So people who are trying to tell you to do these things, they're trying to earn profit off you. And so what happens is when they're trying to earn profit off you, trying to kind of, you know, make money off you, they have a lot of incentive not to let this gyan be discussed, not have this gyan be realized by everyone. You know, we have such blessings in the sense that we can listen to this gyan on our phones free of charge anywhere in the world. But just kind of know the context. Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji was put together by Panchmi Pacha. He wrote this Shabad and many other Shabads. But he was, you know, brought in front of a unjust court and they convicted him and they murdered him. He gave Shahidi. And it was because he was telling the truth. He was telling a revolutionary gyan. So it was no small thing. And we should be forever thankful for all the shahidiyan, all the Sikh that have given their lives to get this gyan to us. So we respect Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. We know there's divinity there. We know there's reverence there. But there's so much history there too. Now, I don't want to go too much into the history because it also says, you know, Gur ki karni ka hitao, so gur keha, so kar kamavo. So that line means what the Guru has done. Don't focus so much on that. What the Guru is telling you, focus on that more. Gur ki karni ka hitao, gur keha, so kar kamavo. Right? So the Guru said, you know, don't have any vary. Right? The Guru said, don't do ninda, don't do dubda, don't have home and don't do lok laja, right? So when you have a nemesis, jab tare ko bari meet, tab lag nechal nahi cheet, your mind won't be steady. So we're doing Gurmat meditation, but if we have enemies and nemesis in our mind, that will distract us from Akal Purkh. We're all children of the same Akal Purkh. We don't want to create animosities between people. That's called dubada. When one person is saying, I'm better than you, or you're not as good as me, that's dubada. That's jat pat, right? Social status and casteism. And there's many names of that, you know, apartheid or slavery. These things have happened because we're in Kal Yug, and Kal has a power over many beings who don't have Nam. And, you know, even in Gurbani, it says, Jojo dise so sorogi, rog rehet mera satgur jogi. So what is Jojo Disa means whoever I can see, so rogi. Each and every person I see is a rogi. Rogi means they don't have naam. Sansar rogi naam daru. And rog rehet mera satgur jogi. The entity that is without rog, without disease, is mera satgur jogi. And so then we have to go to Satguru and kind of get the medicine for this disease of ego. And that ego or that disease is, corrected by Nam. And so it's a balance. So we're doing Gurmat meditation, we're doing it practically. If we forget even just a moment, as Gurbani says, poetically and practically, then we have rog, right? Jatan bani visar jai, jo pakka rogi belalai, right? So we need to always focus on Hadbani, and it's a practice, right? So you're saying wa guru, you have to focus on Hadbani, or focus on Nam in your mind. If you're listening to it without thoughts, then that you're focused on it. Or if you're trying to do the Gat Drishti or the Pyar Wali Akh, the loving eye, kind of looking into the sun, you're kind of focused on the essence of Ek Akal Purakh Ji, just how Gurmukhs are explaining to do Gurmat meditation. And then you essentially start to have less dubda, right? And then that kind of corrects kind of that balance. You'll feel it. You'll start to, as you continue to go, you'll start to feel, okay, when I've forgotten, I've noticed I'm just not in control. There's thousands of fornes and distractions and anxieties that I feel. But once I start to get rebalanced by listening to Anhad then I feel like I'm at a better peace. So it's quite deep, but the other points I touched on, Dobada, Home, being proud of things, interesting. There's a line there by Kabir Sahib Ji, Maya taji to kya pya, man tajya na jai. So when you have given up Maya, Kabir Sahib says, have you actually given up your pride? So some, a lot of people say, I've given up Maya, I've given up all my possessions, I'm just going to do bhakti. But have you minimized your ego, or has it increased? Right? Some people say, give up everything and do your bhakti. Guru Sahib gave us a lot of examples where they worked for a living and did bhakti. Right? Satgur ki aisi vadiyai, puttar ka lattar viche gatapai. So while you're working, while you're doing responsibilities, you can do bhakti. Our best time to do bhakti is at night. Everyone goes to sleep. Gurmukhs andin jage means they're attuned to the name even while they're sleeping. So that's home, right? So you always do it in Nimrata, and one of the best ways to have killed the ego is to do Simran Jap in Sangat, right? Hum piche lag chali, where you're going together and you're kind of following another Gurmukh, right? Now, because of the virtual environment, we have one Gurmukh on the microphone. Ik lair bandi nahi, matlab, if everyone is joined in with their audio on, it's not just one pace, just the way the virtual environment is. So we have to actually ask just one person to go and lead the Sangat, and everyone leads at different times. However, when you're sitting together in Sangat in the physical form, then we can kind of join in together, but no one is faster than everyone else. Everyone kind of works together. The analogy there, would be like everyone works as a team on a rowing boat, and everyone rows at the same time and hits that row at the same time, and then you get to the place where you need to go. So home lok laja means shame and feeling second guessing yourself. The that concept where you are ashamed of who you are or what you know who you are as a person, that's something that Guru Sahib advises against. Guru Sahib said, love yourself, right? And don't be self-conscious, right? So there's many many suggestions to help in our life, in our journey. And this way, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji gives us margdarshan. So we talked about lokalaja, which is self-consciousness, home, ego, dubda, which is like dubda, irka, nefrat, kirna, which is like dilemma, jealousy, hate, and then there's ninda, chugli, and fikke bachan. So slander and gossip, saying bad words about someone. It's so important not to do that. It's probably the most important point. And until you meet Gurmukhs to explain that to you, we're kind of guilty. All of us are guilty of that. So everyone is a child of Akal Purakh Waheguru Ji. We're all children of that one. Our minds are part and parcel of that Ek Jot. Ours is a small Jot, the mind, and the Ek Jot is a very large Jot. A little subtlety, Ninda Chugli is bullying. In schools, bullying happens. Even at the workplace, bullying happens in different ways. It may not be violent, but it might be violent language. And bullying happens a lot with children. So how do we combat that? Some people will say, give us some techniques to do bullying. And I can give you my own example. When I was in high school, I was new to high school, and I had a drug reaction to a skin medication for my acne. And so my skin was burnt, literally was scabbed, and kids started making fun of me. And practically, Gurmukh Gurmukh explained that you should always go to sleep doing Simran. So every night I was quite sad. I came from it was my first year of high school. I came from a grade school where I was the popular kid. And then my whole world was upside down. Every day I was getting made fun of for looking a certain way. And what I basically did was implement a Simran routine at night. And, the first few nights I was crying, but I was doing Simran, Wa Guru. And then after a while, after 10, 15 minutes, Guru ne kirpa kiti, Guru did kirpa, blessings, that I started to feel better. And eventually I started to feel lighter. And then I went to sleep. And over the few days, I started to gain strength. And the Gurmukhs explained that when you go at the end of the day, after you've done all your responsibilities, whether you have to go to school or work, Gurmukhs will sit and do Gurmantar Jap, Wa Guru, and it kind of clears all the filth of the day. You kind of shed yourself of the excessive thoughts, right? And eventually Gurmukhs, then they focus on the quiet time, and then they focus on Anhad Bani. And Anhad Bani cuts all these karam, right? In Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, it says, Gur ka shabad kaate kot karam. And that was a shabad by a Bhagat. And that Bhagat Ji has only one shabad in the whole Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And he was known for karam before in his life because he was a Brahmin. And he was considered one of the top Brahmins at the time. Right? So Gurka Shabad Kate Kot Karam. So the Guru Shabad can cut thousands of karam that we have done. So the bachan is when we, at the end of the day, we do Gurmantar Jap. Now, just like I told you the story of bullying, just to wrap it up, the the bullies, they continued to be there, but they realized that there was some conviction day by day in me. And, I didn't really pay too much notice to them. I even at the beginning, I didn't really allow them to see me, feel, intimidated by them. But what happens is that's called the asr, right? God's asr is they give you an idea. So you may have not a great emotional feeling right at that moment, but you start to think about it and continually think about it after the fact. And that's where God takes you, right? So if you have 1 hour after the fact that this happened, are you going to continually think about or reenact the events of something traumatic? Or are you going to try to, figure it out for a little bit and then spend most of your time doing Nam Simran? So then it's kind of like the analogy, if you have a can of, corn or beans and you hold it out with your arm extended, it weighs nothing almost. And you hold that can there with your arm out for 10 minutes, that's fine. It will be a little bit uncomfortable. But if you hold that out for an hour, or worse, 2 hours, or all night, then your arm is going to be very sore. So that's how thoughts are. If we continue to allow our thoughts to continue and grow and grow and grow, then they create an effect in your body and in our mind. And, Gurmukh's explained that when you do Gur Mantra Jap, you kind of get away from these thoughts. You kind of just let go. And the thoughts create such separation from us in Akal Purkh Waheguru Ji that it creates such a process. There's an analogy there. Thoughts are kind of like, the weather, like stormy seas, calm seas, or choppy seas. So like if you're, a, have a boat going through the ocean, what you ideally want is tranquil, peaceful seas, no wind, the water's very, very calm. That's good thoughts, right? So even whatever your situation is, whether it's bullying or anything in the world, you want to be kind of even keeled, at peace, and then you navigate that area of your life. If you have choppy seas or very thunderous, stormy seas, that's an analogy for tamogun, right? Rajogun is less choppier seas, and Satagun is kind of your most tranquil state. So that's kind of Santka Maragataram Ki Pori. And so when we know intrinsically, if we have those type of good thoughts more often than not, then we can be a bit more at peace. But like I said, Gurka Shabad Kate Kot Karam, or like I referenced, a lot of people in the world try to be Satoguni and try to be very peaceful, but they don't have Nam or Gurmantar Shabad. And so what happens is they internalize things. And internalizing things can also make a big, big, big negative effect. You don't want to internalize things. You don't want to hold on to it. It just, people hold on to stress that way. And look around this world as people are now becoming more reflective and mindful. They don't want to hold on stress. They identify that they have stress, but they don't know how to get rid of it. And Guru Sahib gives us a solution. At the end of our day, at the end of our karam, we go home and we do Wa Guru, Wa Guru. And then that way you become light. And those karam get zapped away. Otherwise, if you don't have that tool, then that internalizes in your body and there's other problems there, right? So let's do some Guru Mantra Jap and try to get our karam away from us. Va Guru, 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 Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Gur Ka Shabad Kaate Kot Karam, that's a Shabad by Bhagat Ramananda Ji. He was a contemporary of Bhagat Kabir Ji, and he was known to be a top um, kind of ritualistic kind of guy, but then he did Shabad Kamai and became a Bhagat. And, to be clear, in Gurbani it says a true Brahman is someone who can see Brahma Gyan, who can see the shakal of Brahm. That is a true Brahman by definition. So, Brahmins were given a very high respect in ancient India because they knew the Vedas, they knew the ancient knowledge, and Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji explains Veda mein naam uttam, the true the pinnacle target, Veda mein naam uttam, the most highest and most important target in the Vedas is Nam. So Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji is referencing the Vedas, so there's only respect for the Vedas. There's only respect for Brahmins, but they warn against religious hypocrisy. So they don't want people to say that you need to go through one person or a group of people or a group of men or whatever it is to get to Ekakal Purkh Waheguru Ji. You just need a guru, right? And that guru has to be Purna. And so there's a lot of people kind of attach you to them, and you have to be very, very careful of that. There's a story in Sikh Ityas where Sheme Pacha, he was, they were traveling with other Sikh of the Guru, and there was a lot of Guru Pyare there, and there was a big snake, and the snake, it was just a terrible sight to see. It was a big giant snake. It wasn't moving. It had thousands of wounds, and it had gidiya, little ants kind of eating at its flesh, and it was clearly in pain. And one of the Sikh said to the sixth Guru, like, well, what's this person's karma, or and the Guru Sahib said that this person in their previous life was forcing people to join him instead of encouraging them to focus on Ekakal Purkh. And this is his karma. All those gidiya, all those ants that were eating him were his jedle, all his followers in his previous life. So you don't need to follow any man or any person. Whoever whoever can help guide you in your life, that's great. But we don't need to fixate and worship any one person. We only need to worship Ekakal Purkh. Like I mentioned, the Brahm, Asul Brahm Gyan is when you can see the shakal. Now, Gurmukhs explain when you focus your dhyan into the sun, it's kind of like, meeting someone from, the past, or like a previous life, like as the saying goes, like say you had lived in a town 50 years ago, and then someone recognizes you from that town, but you don't recognize them. And then they say, do you recognize me? And what do? You look right at their face, and you sit and you kind of look at their face and try to recognize them. You try to, search in your memory. And that's how, when Gurmukhs sit and try to focus on the sun, the empty space, when they do Gur Mantra Jap, they're trying to recognize their origin. Because Akal Purkh Waheguru Ji is in that sun area, and we're trying to recognize our mool, our origin, right? That person that you may have not met for 50 years, they'll say, what's your best guess? And then you might have a name, and they'll say, no, you've got it wrong. What do they say? Keep looking at me. Keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. And as Gurmukh say, just keep looking into the Sach. Keep looking into that Sach with a pyar, with a bharosa, with a faith and a love. And lots of things can happen, right? So just like the Gurmukhs explain in the process, first the base is always going to be Gurmantar Jap, no matter what your avastha. If you're the most advanced Gurmukh or you're the most beginner, remember, up until the end, all the Gurmukhs are doing Waheguru Jap. Sift Sala, Wa, Guru, Wa, Guru, Wa, Guru. That's the rule, and that's the beauty of Sangat. And if you don't hear Anhad Bani or you don't have Prakash or Amatras, don't worry, you're in Sangat right now. So lots of kirpa can happen. Remember, there's a Shabad there, Pachin Krod Angnihive, Nirasang As Purne. Without any As Purne means, Niras means without As means hopes. As Purne, all your hopes can be fulfilled without any hope. So it's kind of a play on words, but Guru Sahib is saying when you're doing Gurmantar Jap, don't focus on what you need. Don't focus on any of that. Just focus on the vidhi, the technique, the bachan of the Guru, which is do a thoughtless, without thought seva of Gurmantar, then do a thoughtless seva of Anhad Bani, and then focus on the Sukham Chija, right? The subtle things, the Anhad Bani and the Darshan or Waheguru, and have faith. And then when you do that, you don't worry about anyone's avastha. You just worry about Waheguru, who's right in front of you, right? In ancient India, there's tons and tons of people with most advanced avasthas, right? In Mahabharata war, there was a guy who could see the entire war even though he was blind. He had such a connection, such a gift from Ekakal Purkh Waheguru. We don't need to focus on each other's avasthas in Sangat. That's not Gurmat. We don't need to worry about where someone is. We just have to worry about Ekakal Purkh Waheguru. So let's spend 5 more minutes doing Waheguru Simran Jap. Wah Guru, 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 Wah Guru. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So I wanted to conclude Gurmukh Pyareo. We touched on a lot of things. Lok Laja Home, Ninda Chugli, the ego home lok laja, the Nanda Chugli. And we touched on these things, and Dubda, sorry. And I touched on bullying. I want to kind of conclude the story that when you do Gurmantar Jap, you start to have this confidence, and it helps you in all kinds of phases of life. And we talked about Satoguni. You're more likely to be Satoguni if you're going to be doing Gurmantar Jap, if you do the vidhis. And people around you are going to navigate towards that, right? And they're going to like that you bring a peace, you bring an emotional intelligence to a situation. And as a Gurmukh, you don't need to get pride about that. You have to just say, Je lok salahi teri upama. Ninde chor na jai. So if people praise me, then it's your praise, Ekakal Purkh Waheguru. If people slander me, then that doesn't mean I'm going to give up on Waheguru. I cannot give. Chor means to get, like, let go. So always remember that whatever the situation is, if people are praising or slandering you, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you, or it shouldn't affect you. And if it does, then notice that you have to do a bit more Gurmat job, more Sangat, go for positivity, right? Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says, Sukh, Dukh, Dono Samakar Jano, right? Consider pain and happiness the same. You want to be even keeled. You don't want to be too high. You don't want to be too low. And that's kind of an avastha. So if you are excited about something, that's good. It's good to be engaged and happy about good things and have happy memories. But you want to know that it shouldn't overly derail you if it goes good or bad, right? Gurmukhs are very even keeled. We talked about Guru Arjan Dev Ji's Shahidi. So Guru Arjan Dev Ji's Shahidi was it was related to the Sharia law, which is the rules and regulations in addition to the Quran Sharif. And at the time, the emperor was very much trying to force everyone to believe in whatever his religion was. And then he had a group of judges, right? This is a common theme in human history with any sort of evil. So these judges believed, according to their Sharia, that no blood of a holy man should be spilt. So that's why the Shahidi was done in such a way that Guru Arjan Dev Ji, his murder was, they put him on a burning hot stove and poured sand on him. They tortured him. And then afterwards, after they, he passed away or was close to passing away, they threw him in the Satluj River, if I recall correctly. And the point was they didn't want a single drop of blood spilled. So they were willing to torture him, but they didn't want to torture him in a way that his blood would spill. They said it might be bad for the land if it was a holy person. So these kind of rules and regulations, they create so much dobada and they create so much evil in the world. And Guru Arjan Dev Ji, what he did was, and all the Pratan Singhs and all the Gurmukhs that are doing Vidhi explanations now, they're explaining this, that you have to take your surti away from your body. Our home is away from our body. In Gurbani, the home is referred to outside of our body. So that is the inside. When you go inside, you're actually going away from your body. So when your mind is in your body, you are actually outside. And just like an analogy with the house, where when you step out of the house and then the thieves can seize you, that's what happens when our mind is out of our tirkar, out of the spiritual place in front of our body, in front of our face. If our mind is into our body or into vichars and into this life, then the five thieves can grab a hold of you. And so then the Gurmukhs, they give you the vidhi, Wah, Guru, Wah, Guru. And even more quickly is your eyes. Take your eyes into sun and you go away from this kind of called the alaka. Right? Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Sada rahe, kanchan si kaya, kal na kabuhu vyape. What they're referring to is Sada rahe, always focus on that area where God can never bother you. Right? It's a very high avastha. But jere Gurmukh practice karde, the Gurmukhs that they do this practice every day, many great things happen. So we talked about bullying. This is a great tactic. So, because I'm spending some time on bullying because it was in the news a little bit, but a lot of Sikh children do get bullied and they need to be given techniques, right? And Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Shastra Naam Mala. So you have to get to the Naam. You have to hold on to Naam and you have to focus your drishti into the sun, right? The Gurmukhs give you an explanation that before you go to do any karam, and I'm going to be wrapping up in 2 minutes, but before you do any karam, always do Wah Guru job. Wah Guru, Wah Guru. And do a little ardas in your mind as you hold onto the body and say, Se pyara mel jana milaya tere naam chit aave, nanak naam chardi ka tere paane sarbat tapala. When you focus on the naam and do every karam, then you'll be amazed that when you walk around the city or your school, those type of minds that have a nice, pleasant atmosphere, they will come into your purview. You'll avoid the bullies. You know how we say we're trying to avoid the bully and we're walking with fear? When you follow the jugtis of the Gurmukhs in Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, they give you such a jugti that when you focus on Hanhat Bani, you focus on Gurmantar Jap, and you focus on the sun, your mind, you're becoming patient. Before you walk into a classroom, you should be doing Gurmantar Jap or focus on the sun. If someone is even yelling at you, you should focus on the sun. And it's quite powerful, right? You don't need to focus on anxiety. In fact, the next person will get turned out too. There's a great power in sun because Vaiguru is in the sun. So I went over a little bit time. Thank you, Vaiguru Ji, for doing this, having me do the seva. I made many, many mistakes, and I tried to do all this vichar out of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, but sometimes mistakes happen and it's not intentional. Sangat Roop and Ek Akal Purkh Vaiguru Ji Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Bakshan Jog ne